Now, I'm very excited today to be joined by Gates Palisari and Megan Evans, who are the co-organizers of Flip the Fair that is based at Virginia Tech. Now, if you haven't watched this, I recently was chatting to the associate director of the Virginia Tech Center for Science Communication, who told me about Flip the Fair organizers and what they've been doing. And so I just thought it prudent to ask them to join me today and tell us more about their work. And most importantly, what they are learning from the work. So, Gates and Megan, welcome to Questions of the Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, take us back a little bit, Gates. What is Flip the Fair and how did it start at Virginia Tech?
Flip the Fair is a flipped science fair. So traditionally in grade school, children do trifold poster boards and then they're judged by adults. We decided to switch that. So we have graduate students presenting their research on these trifold poster boards the same way an elementary school student would. But instead of being judged by adults, they're actually judged by the elementary school students from Roanoke City Public Schools. And it started a couple of years ago. Actually, I was on the original organizing team. A group of students found out about an opportunity to get a grant to do some community outreach type of project, and we decided to work with the Roanoke Public Libraries. And that's how Flip the Fair was born. It's gone through a couple of iterations. We've made some changes every year, but the format has generally stayed the same.
Wow. So, I love humble beginnings, right? And so you're both, just to be correct, you are both graduate students. Is that right, Megan?
Yes, we're both graduate students in the same graduate program as well.
Yeah. So before we get into Flip the Fair a little bit, let's do some backstory there as well. So Megan, tell us about your graduate career so far.
Sure. So I'm a fourth year PhD candidate in the Translational Biology, Medicine, and Health program. So it's kind of a big title, but basically it's an interdisciplinary program that focuses on the translational impacts of science. So going from bench side all the way into the community. So our program really has a lot of different focus areas and different topics. I'm interested in child development, but also how I can take that into the community. So my interests are inherently to kind of bridge the gap from bench to the community.
And that makes sense why you were also getting involved in Flip the Fair. Gates, how about you?
So I'm a fifth year PhD candidate in the same program. My research interest is social behavior. And what I've learned in my research is that I'm really interested in kind of going beyond the research. What's the next step beyond that? So I'm interested in science communication and science policy, and how do we take our research findings and implement that and make that into tangible change in the community.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's important to sort of understand those underpinnings a little bit about what was motivating you to do this. So you mentioned earlier, Gates, that Flip the Fair has gone through several iterations. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so in the first version of Flip the Fair, we were working with the Roanoke Public Libraries, and we had the event open to the public. So any parents and children could come in and participate. After that, the Roanoke City Public Schools became interested in working with us. And so for the second year, and now this year, our third year, they've actually been fantastic partners where they treat this as a field trip for their fifth grade classes. And they are busing children in to be our judges and to evaluate the grad student research.
I mean, I'm just imagining it being in elementary and being a judge a little bit. Megan, can you walk us through exactly what happens at Flip the Fair?
Sure. So last year, it was our second year, and that was our first time doing the field trip style. So we have the children on the buses. We jump on the buses when they first arrive, and we kind of walk them through what they're going to be doing today. So we have the kids kind of paired off into small groups. And then we have volunteers, and they can be graduate students, undergrads, any, research staff that might be interested in helping. And we have them lead the small groups of kids around to the different posters. So in about an hour that they're there, they'll see between 4 and 5 graduate student posters. The talks that the graduate students give are about 5 minutes long, and then we have some time for questions that the students can ask. But we do have some a form that we give all of the students to kind of fill out as a group on kind of how they thought that the poster was presented, if it was presented well, if it was clear, if it made sense. So each student will kind of get together with their team and then give the graduate student a score based on their poster.
Yeah, I understand they actually have a list of questions, right? One of them is, how well did the presenter explain why their research question was important?
Yes.
Yeah. So how did these questions come up, Gates, for the elementary students, right? For you guys to give them and to evaluate the presenters on that scale.
So in the fifth grade, which is the year that they do science fair posters like this, the students are given a rubric that has them. It addresses the major points that should be on their posters. There should be the hypothesis, the methods, the results. So we use that as the basis of the questions that they're evaluating the graduate students on. So the why is it important would be under the conclusions category. The how did they do it question kind of really addresses the methods that the grad students are using to answer their questions.
Yeah. And so this is a question I ask everybody on my program. So get ready for it. The key thing that I always wonder is what are lessons along the way, right? So I'm curious from the first side of this is what have the fifth graders been telling you about their experience and what they've taken away from participating in this? And I'll send that to Megan first.
So we were able to get some feedback forms from the teachers and then as well as graduate students. But the fifth graders, they really enjoy seeing kind of the breadth of research that is happening at Virginia Tech. So we have all across different graduate programs. So we'll have some people come in with snakes and talking about wildlife. And then we also have some neuroscience. So it's a little bit of everything. And so that kind of exposure has been really interesting for them, just to kind of see like what a scientist really is. And it's not just this kind of one size fits all. It's scientists look different, and there's lots of different types of scientists.
Do you want to add anything?
I'll just add on that the students that we have coming in for this, they come from Title I schools. So they're coming from schools that don't have a lot of resources. They don't have access to the types of programming that might otherwise expose them to scientists and work that scientists are doing. And so for a lot of them, this is the first time that they're really seeing how they can take their interests and become scientists with their interests. For some of them, it's the first time they're seeing scientists who look like them. And that's really impactful for them. I think last year, someone brought in a light microscope. One of our graduate students brought in a light microscope. And it was the first time that some of these fifth graders had ever seen and gotten the opportunity to touch and work with a microscope.
Wow. And what about the graduate students on the other side of the equation? What have they been telling you about their experience? Gates.
They have a lot of fun with it. I think for a lot of our grad students, and Megan can really speak to this because in our first year, she was actually one of the grad student presenters who was judged. But for a lot of them, it's a lot of fun to take their research and break it down in this new way for kids, not just for the typical scientific audience. And so I think they have a lot of fun preparing for that. And we've seen people who have these really beautiful trifold poster boards. They've got construction paper and glitter and everything on there.
Megan, you want to expand a little bit?
Yes, like Gates said, I was a presenter the first year, and it was fantastic. We had a workshop ahead of time just to kind of help us all prepare for, how we should be forming our kind of our spiels, and as well as kind of how to make our poster boards most appealing and very clear and concise. But no, it's a great experience for graduate students. The kids always ask great questions, and you can prepare how you think they might respond to your poster. But it's been really interesting to see kind of what types of questions they ask. So yeah, it's definitely a highlight for a lot of graduate students, and we don't really have anything like this for graduate students. So this is, we have a lot of graduate students return each year. And so if their research changes, they're able to kind of update what they've done in the past, or they can, because it's a new group of kids, they can reuse the same poster. But yeah, it's a great experience. And then there's some competition between the graduate students because we do some prizes at the end to see who kind of had the best overall response from the kids.
So they are returning. So that's I think an
Yeah.
interesting metric
Yes.
that you is there the demand is it meeting the supply, if you will? Do you have way more graduate students than students than judges, or tell me about that?
But we have a lot of elementary school students coming in. This year, we're going to have about 300 students. We do not have that many graduate students participating, but we get about 20 different posters, and that includes people who do demonstrations. And like Megan said before, last year we had someone bring in a live snake because they work with snakes, and that was really popular with the kids. I think he's actually coming back this year. So they, our grad students have fun with it. The kids have fun with it. And it's a great way to connect the grad students with this community.
Yeah, and I can imagine the graduate students themselves also connect, right?
Yeah.
When
Yes.
they're there as well. Is there a metric on both sides of that equation that you guys are paying attention to? So if you think about the fifth graders, is there a metric that you say if thing is happening with something good, we're doing something right here? And then same question for the graduate students. Is there a metric that when you see this, you're like, wow, okay, this is having an impact? So Gates, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I'll address the kids first. So we actually just met with our library partners yesterday, and one of them told us a story that she met a child who's in fifth grade at one of these schools, and the kid was telling her how excited she was to go on a field trip to the library. And just knowing that these kids are really excited and they're looking forward to this field trip, it's educational, but they're still really into it. That's a great feeling. Also, we've heard from the teachers that the teachers are using this opportunity to help bolster their curriculum and what they're teaching in class. So they do a little bit of preparation before they get there, not just to understand what science is, but to get them excited to see all these different kinds of science. And so I think we consider that that is a big success. And the fact that our community partners in the library and the schools continue to ask us to participate in this with them to help them make this a long-lasting event, I think that really makes it a success for us.
And how about the graduate students, Megan?
The graduate students, we do get like kind of survey information for them afterwards just to help us refine every year. So we're always making sure that we're doing things the way that makes the most sense, not just for the students, but for graduate students as well. And it seems to always be well received, and we quantify that not just with our graduate student numbers, but also we are now having more consistent opportunities for funding within our own university. So the graduate school at Virginia Tech helps sponsor us. Communicating Science also helps sponsor us. So we have lots of different supports within the university that help us keep this going.
Yeah, and keeping it going, that's the part of the challenge as well, right? I'm curious, do you provide any training to the graduate students that are participating? And I want to ask Megan this: when you participated in your first year, was there a course that you had taken, or does Flip the Fair provide a workshop or something that preps you for the Flip the Fair project?
Yes. So we do provide a kind of a half-day workshop, and we start by kind of getting into some accessibility and diversity, equity, inclusion, and how that is going to be translated in the event. And then we'll also get into some communicating science. So we'll do some kind of exercises to kind of get everyone comfortable, but also kind of how to take our research and make it in a more digestible way. And the graduate students really enjoy it. We enjoy it as organizers, seeing everyone interacting, because so many programs are kind of involved. It's really interesting to see all the graduate students from programs they may not normally connect with, kind of connect in this way.
Yeah, and I understand, is there a requirement for science communication course of some kind at Virginia Tech? Is there such a thing?
There's no hard and fast requirement. Courses are offered for anyone who's interested, and different programs may have different requirements, but like our program doesn't have a strict communicating science requirement.
I see. I see. So we started talking a little bit there about challenges. Now, doing this is not easy, for sure, right? I'm just curious from your end, what have been the biggest challenges in running this project, Gates?
I think one of our biggest challenges, so Virginia Tech, the main campus is based in Blacksburg. Megan and our labs and our program are based in Roanoke, which is about a 45-minute to an hour drive east of Blacksburg. And our partners are the Roanoke Public Libraries and Roanoke City Schools. And so trying to recruit people to come to an event that's all day in Roanoke is a bit of a challenge. Partly it's logistical, so things like transportation, but also we are asking graduate students who are very busy and always doing their work and research and have classes and everything to take an entire day to be kind of that far away from campus. So they don't have the opportunity to go check on an experiment in the middle of the day or anything like that. I think that has been a challenge for us, is just the physical location being different. But I think that's outweighed by the benefits, and just for our grad students being able to connect with a community that they're not used to.
Yeah. And just to be clear, how many times a year or a month do you do this?
This is an annual event, so once a year.
Once a year. Okay. You want to add anything, Megan, to that? Challenges that you've faced?
Yes, definitely echoing what Gates said about trying to get students to be able to get out of the lab. I'm lucky enough to have advisors that are really supportive of communicating science events and, outreach activities that's outside of what you might consider a graduate student role. And I think this is an important part of being a graduate student. I don't necessarily think everyone has those same views. And I think graduate students appreciate the opportunity to be able to do things like this, but it does make it a little challenging with some of the barriers kind of within labs and programs and things like that.
Yeah, I can imagine that for sure. So imagine you had a magic wand, right? And you can wish away some things here or wish into, what would you wish for, in your bucket list? And to either of you.
Time, probably. We are lucky enough to have, funding, and that makes it easier for us. But balancing time outside of the lab with scheduling and organizing, this is a professional development for me, and I really enjoy organizing this event. I wouldn't say that it's a direct going towards me defending and graduating and things like that, but so time, having a good organizing committee consistently. I'm lucky to work with Gates, and so that always makes things a little bit easier. But having the programic support of the university to be able to continue this program, so that even though Gates and I eventually will graduate, that this will be able to continue on.
Yeah, because you do have the university support, right? And you mentioned the center as well.
Yes.
I'm assuming the center probably is involved in that workshop that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. They do.
And tell me more about that. How instrumental has that been to have them as a partner?
Oh, it's been fantastic. We feel really lucky that they're so excited about the event, and they help support us in ways that we don't necessarily have the expertise. So having the communicating science class, although it's a great class, not everyone can take the class as a graduate student. So being able to have workshops, that way they get, the really important information that's, helpful for the Flip the Fair, without having to take the class. And then they also provide, just having an on-campus resource to kind of help us, and they have excellent faculty that work in the program. So we're very fortunate with.
And we didn't talk about the class because that's a separate,
Yes.
It's offered by the center. And those who are watching, you should watch the conversation I had with Carrie Curla about that. The workshop is an add-on. It's a separate thing, right? That's you mentioned. Yes. That this provides an additional access point for them. I think we may have lost Gates there, but so glad we were still able to continue chatting, Megan. So in terms of the future, so both of you are kind of getting up there, right? And
Yes.
getting time to graduate. Tell me more about that. How are you envisioning this continuing?
So, because the library that we work with and the school system are so excited about the event, they really want to keep it going. It is challenging in the graduate student side of things to find people that have the same level of excitement and the time to be able to help plan the event. So, we have graduate students, younger graduate students, that kind of we will be having them kind of help out with some of our events. We do have a student club, the Virginia Tech Carillion Student Outreach Program. So that's a club that we have based in Roanoke that's helping us kind of facilitate this event. So we use that club to help recruit graduate students and the organizing committee through that program. So that's how we hope to keep it going. And then the communicating science department has also been very helpful in kind of keeping our documents and recruiting graduate students as well through their class that they have.
Yeah, and I'm curious, how has this experience changed you in particular, right? You mentioned you have this inclination in thinking beyond the bench, right? Tell me more about that.
Because I work with kids, I have always been interested in working with kids, and I I see the value, not just as an opportunity to connect, but as a scientist, being able to communicate science with a wide variety of audiences is really important, and it's a skill that's not always fully appreciated and given the opportunities the same way. So, we go to conferences and present our research, but we want to be able to communicate with that with everyone. And kids are an important group to be able to communicate that with. And so, although I'm not a presenter anymore, I really enjoy. I help lead some of the groups around the different posters, and so I'm able to still kind of connect in that way. But no, it has been extremely important to my graduate career, and I hope in the future that I can support other graduate students to be able to continue this.
And welcome back, Gates. We are talking about sort of how participation in Flip the Fair has influenced you in your own career path. So just to finish up there, Megan, in terms of your career path, I mean, are you thinking about pursuing a career potentially in the civic science space from
I,
this?
it'll definitely be an important part of. I see myself staying in academia, but having programs that if I can connect as a faculty member, I think that would be great to kind of continue that.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that as well is I don't know if you were aware recently. So Kate the chemist just got a professorship, professor of public understanding of science at Notre Dame, and so there are these roles that are popping up that I'm seeing where you have bench scientists that are taking that skill set and passion, right, which I see in both of you, and in doing that, still seeing some challenge there with Gates. And just more broadly, Megan, what are you seeing? What's your take as you look at the landscape? If you zoom out, Flip the Fair is one of several types of initiatives, right, that are out there and engaging the public. What's your take as you see growth of this space, and what more off do you think graduate students in particular need to participate in it?
I think a lot of it comes from advertising and sharing opportunities like this, and making it a skill set that is valued properly. I think if graduate students saw the value, they would want to, continue to do it. And I think if programs also can kind of support graduate students in taking under, something like this, then that's a really good way to have graduate student buy-in and program buy-in. And so I think that would really help. But yes, I think social media has been a really great way for graduate students to kind of see what other opportunities are out there, and using their platforms to kind of share opportunities.
Yeah. So you're talking about more exposure, right? So
Yes, definitely.
increasing awareness, I think, is the first barrier. And then
Always. Yes.
thinking about the whole infrastructure. How do we support them once they're interested, right? For
Hmm.
example, how do
Yes.
you support them? Because there's many things you can do, right? You don't have to completely leave the bench. You can still be a faculty member at the bench level and
Hmm.
participate in public engagement, or pursue an actual public engagement career, right? And
Yes.
those pathways are expanding slowly there as well. My goodness, we can just keep talking all day long, and we are scratching the surface here. I have tons of other questions to ask, but I always tell my guests that this is just an opening, that we're going to continue having this conversation to learn more about what you all are learning. And you've shared a ton about what you're learning on the ground as well. So I understand the next Flip the Fair event is next week. So we are recording
Yes.
this September
Yep.
17th, 2024.
Hmm.
Tell me what's going to be in store on this iteration that is perhaps different from the last few.
So we're keeping the structure the same, but we have even more kids than last year. So we were able to kind of use the field trip model to see kind of how many students we could realistically kind of bring in, and we found that we could take on some more. So we've decided to increase our numbers. We have more volunteers, more graduate students. So we're really looking forward to kind of expanding this, and we have great feedback from the public school system, and they want to keep doing this every year. And so as long as everyone's excited, then I think we'll be able to keep it going.
And that's a powerful metric, excitement as well, right?
Yes.
And just listened to a panel earlier about excitement.
Yes.
And forgive me for an additional question. Do you hope you can track these students over the long haul potentially? Because they participate once a year, right?
Hmm.
Do you have a sense if some of them come back, or do you like? How do you
Since
track the excitement after the event?
mm-hmm. So because we are targeting fifth grade, just because
Mhm,
it's such a, kind of an interesting year, they're about to
mhm,
start middle school and we're trying to get them excited.
mhm,
Um, we don't see the same kids twice. But we do know that, especially because we've been doing this will be our third time. We have a lot of promotional materials that we've been able to share with kids to kind of get them excited. So
mhm.
teachers will share kind of our videos with them of kind of what to expect, and so that has been really great in trying to get them excited. But we also, because the teachers, they come back, so we get feedback from the teachers and how much they enjoy bringing their students to this event, and we hope to kind of see how this goes in the future with them.
Wonderful. I think there's no better place to leave it than there. Megan, thank you so much, and look forward to having you back very soon.
Thank you for having me.